Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in pints.
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my... Wow, I don't have anything to say that's funny.
My little green friend.
There you go. That was good. Very good. It's my little green friend, Frank. How are you today?
Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good, Frank. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. I'm
Good.
doing quite well for someone whose child is teething.
Yeah, good for you, man. It's a challenging time. It truly is. Mine's teething. Well, she was yesterday. She seems fine today, so probably came in. I
That's
didn't
good.
check. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, she got those
Yeah,
chompers.
is that 24 to that's that 42 to 72 hours when the tooth is popping?
Mm-hmm.
That's the oof.
Yeah, it's a time.
Oof.
Yeah, it's a time.
It's a time.
Yeah, my daughter's old enough now that she knows where the medicine is and she knows what it does. So she goes to the cabinet and she's like, I don't know what this is called.
I need this.
But I know that I need it because my mouth hurts. Yeah, which
poor
is
kid.
fine. But I also know that some kids are also like, medicine tastes good, so give me the medicine and I will be happy. And you're like, no,
Yeah.
no, don't do that. So
My daughter's that way with the gas drops.
oh, really?
You know, when she's got an upset stomach and we give her the gas drops, she loves it. That'll stop her crying pretty much immediately because she's like, this is the only thing other than milk that I've ever tasted. This is amazing.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she's like, wow, is this candy?
And you're like, no, it is not. Please do not treat it like candy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, please. But I remember when I was a kid. Do you remember, did you have Diamond Tap as a kid or the liquid Tylenol?
Mm-hmm.
And you're we had opinions.
Oh, sure.
Where it would be okay, it's Diamond Tap tonight. Like, oh man, Diamond Tap, that's not as good as Tylenol.
They were all terrible.
Yeah,
They
no.
were so bad.
But my parents definitely did Diamond Tap because it had drowsy formula. It was drowsy formula, so they were like, go to bed, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
Right.
Yeah. So, but anyway, Frank, what are you drinking on this show called Beer with Geeks? Are you drinking a beer?
Well, I am. It's a little late in the season, but I just picked this up a few days ago because I just can't get enough of these. I'm still on the Oktoberfest.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's the Wormtown Brewery Octoberfest Marzen. I've really been enjoying the Oktoberfest this year. I texted you a week or two ago when I was at a beer bar that I like, and I accidentally ordered a 1 liter can of an Oktoberfest. I did not realize it was a liter when I ordered it. And it
comes in liters? Yeah, right.
Yes. Nice. But yeah, the server came out with this big old can, and I was like, I guess I'm drinking this. I mean, I've had the 1 liter boot before, at a brewery or whatever. But never had it out of a can that size. So that was interesting. Before, the biggest can I'd ever seen was a Foster's can. But
Foster's, yeah, right.
But this was like
Foster's.
double a Foster's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, mate, what's the good word? That's The Simpsons, where they're like, we got to tell the mayor, and they go all the way, and he's just floating naked in a tube drinking a Foster's. It's great. It's great.
That's great.
It is. Yeah,
But
liters,
yes,
that's
the
a lot.
Octoberfest from Wormtown is what I'm enjoying tonight, and yeah, it's great. It's just what you want out of a Marzen, out of an Octoberfest. What about you? Are you drinking beer?
I'm not drinking a beer. My wife had to open a bottle of red wine for a recipe, so of course it goes bad after like a week if you don't drink it. So I got to drink me some red wine.
No.
And so I'm drinking a Line 39 Pinot Noir.
Nice.
Yeah.
Kimmy Schmidt.
Kimmy Schmidt. A show that I dropped off of. I never finished it. Now that I think about it. But I liked.
Did you watch the interactive one?
No, I did not.
That is actually a lot of fun.
Okay. I liked the show a
lot.
lot. I think it just took too long to get the next season, and by the time it came back, I had moved on to different things. I wouldn't even say bigger or better, just different things.
Just different. No, I get that. I've definitely done that with shows where like I had every intention of continuing with it, and then I just sort of forgot about it. Something else took its place, and then by the time it came back, it sort of was lower on my priority list or whatever.
Yep.
So I get it.
Yeah. But you know what, Frank? You know what I think is a show that is not going to be one of those shows that drops off for me if it continues is Star Wars Tales of the Jedi. The new Star Wars animated television show from Dave Filoni. The 6 episode? Yeah, 6 episode short. 6 is good. 6 episode short collection of Star Wars shorts featuring predominantly Ahsoka, Tano, and Count Dooku. And that's pretty much it. You follow these two in their different paths, and that's it. And you're in and out in 6 episodes, about 15 minutes apiece, and it was freaking excellent. I loved it.
It was excellent.
It was excellent. I truly. Go ahead. Use your words. Yeah, I can use mine first.
I loved I thought this was a really outstanding format for Star Wars storytelling in the sense that it was following these two characters largely, but at different points in their life, at different points in their story. It was anthology style, right? So telling different stories in this universe, mostly centering on these two characters, but sort of dipping in and out and having different characters along the way. You know, some Clone Wars era stuff, some later stuff, some earlier stuff. Very, very cool how they did it. And like, I really, really like this format. Like I would watch a lot of stories like this told throughout like the Star Wars universe in these little bite-sized chunks.
Yep, me too. I think talking to the format, I think I liked it so much because it was anthology, but it was still character focused, and so like to me, it's like this was a show about Count Dooku with like Ahsoka filler episodes, and that's it. Like yes, there were other characters in it, but like because he has a really clear character arc, even if it's throughout different points in his life, I still felt like the show was centralized in a really good, the narrative was centralized in a good way. If every episode was a different character and none of them had an arc outside of its individualized episode, but you weren't watching something overarching through the course of 6 episodes or at least 3 or 4, I don't think I would have been as invested as I was.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think I still would have enjoyed it. Maybe not to the same extent. Like having that unifying through line definitely added a lot to it. I think I'd still if that
I still like
had
it.
been the show,
Yeah.
I think I'd still watch a second season of it. You
Oh,
know what I mean?
me
like,
too.
I'd still be excited for more, but it definitely has way more weight because of that through line and because it was character driven. Like
I think its strength is that it's a character. Like we obviously know a lot about Ahsoka already, so what we saw is pretty much just adding texture to her story that's fairly well told already. Like she's arguably has some of like the longest tenure of stories as a Star Wars character. Like we meet her as a child, like an actual child. Now a baby, even in this one, and we carry all the way through until she's a like middle-aged adult. Like that's but we see a lot of that growth. Whereas in say something like, let's say Luke Skywalker is the other character that has that kind of longevity, or Anakin Skywalker. Anakin's probably the only other one that we see a large part of his life on screen, whereas others we skip a lot. Like Luke, you get 3 and then 2, right? Or 2 and a quarter or whatever, 2 and 3/4. So something like that. But anyway, I think its strength lies in that, like, if one episode was like Jabba the Hutt, and the next one was Boba Fett, and the next one was Lando, and the next one was Rey, and the next, like, I'd be like, okay, that's great. Like, I'm enjoying these, but it works because I'm still watching I'm still watching a continuous story, and that was the big strength. That was the big strength for me. But let's just go episode by episode, and we can talk about all the stuff that we liked and didn't like about the show as we go on from there. The first one is Life and Death, which is the true, I'd say, origin story of Ahsoka Tano, her birth, her parents, the first time she connects with the Force and all that stuff. And truly, this hit as a parent for me, like in a way that it wouldn't have 2 years ago.
Totally. I'm totally with you.
Yeah, like, because you watch children in danger in stories for basically your entire television watching life, like kid shows, Disney movies, everything. Kids are always in danger. Adults are always out to get them. Monsters are out to get them, whatever. But this is so clearly the angst of a parent. And channeled through that moment. But so, like, to go from, spoilers for Tales of the Jedi, moving out, but to go from like, hooray, the birth, to I've lost my child, to I've regained my child, to I have to let go of my child. That's a lot in 15 minutes. And
it really is. And it doesn't feel rushed. Like, it's done so well that they just take you on this journey.
It's
Filoni.
Filoni, right. It's story economy. There's not a second wasted in any episode from the start to the finish. Maybe except the last one, which we will get to by the time we get there. But especially in this first one, there's not a second wasted. Every single second, every frame has purpose. And you can tell they really thought about it. It was like really well crafted from the start. And accessible. Like, you don't have to know it's Ahsoka to care about the family, to the baby, anything that's happening. It could be any Jedi, and it still matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, even if you're not super familiar, if you're just sort of, you've only seen the movies or something, you can still appreciate it.
Do you think this first one worked because it's, to me, more obviously meant for an adult audience or a more mature audience than, say, like most episodes of Bad Batch or Clone Wars or something like that? Like, Dave Filoni sat down and said, my Clone Wars audience are mostly adults now, like college age plus adults. So I'm going to give the story I'm going to tell is for that audience instead of trying to hook kids into 15-minute episodes.
I think I think that is definitely true. And I think that's probably the largest appeal for it. Mm-hmm. But if I had a kid now who was the same age as a lot of kids were when the Clone Wars was starting, I would have no problem showing them this.
Oh, none whatsoever.
They would probably enjoy it on a different level than I'm enjoying it, but they would be able to enjoy it. I think that's what's so. Yes, I think he made it with a Clone Wars audience in mind, people who've already seen the Clone Wars in mind, who are now grown. But the nice thing about it is that it's versatile, and I think it would work for a child audience as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Anything you want to add about that first episode?
No, I have a lot of thoughts on the second one, though.
Yeah, okay, then let's move right to the second one. So, second one is Count Dooku and Qui-Gon Jinn. 2 Jedi are dispatched to resolve a hostage situation on a desert planet. Corey Burton is back as Count Dooku, playing a younger Jedi Knight, Jedi Master version of himself with his apprentice, Qui-Gon Jinn. Not yet voiced by Liam Neeson, but that comes later. I thought this was wonderful because Dooku is one of my favorite Star Wars characters because I am endlessly fascinated by characters they don't explain in Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like Count Dooku, he was a Jedi. He would never kill anybody. It's not in his nature. And you're just like, all right, you're saying a lot of things, but you're not like showing me any of that. Star Wars is very tell, don't show for a lot of things. And then it's like the expanded universe is always like, we'll show you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll show you in 20 years. Like,
yes.
And I just thought that obviously not the beginning of his turn to the dark side in that like he's been thinking about the follies of the Jedi Council and the Jedi Order for some time before this episode, but to see the spark that ignites the fire that the rebellion burns down the First Order, something dark side. You know what I mean?
Burning down the house.
I just found it really compelling to see this character who absolutely does care about people, the people of the galaxy and the corruption of politics, and then just knowing that he's going to become and be manipulated by the very thing that he dislikes so much about the galaxy. It was just awesome. So tragic right from the start.
So it adds such a layer onto what we already know about the character. Like when you pair this episode with moments like him trying to turn Obi-Wan in episode 2, turn Obi-Wan over to the dark side and be like, come on, join me and we can destroy the Sith. Like it adds so much color to moments like that, where it's like at some deep down somewhere, like he really believes that. He's really like, let's destroy the corruption, let's destroy all the bad guys, and let's, very much like Anakin becomes, right? Because he is Palpatine's or Sidious's apprentice before Anakin. Very much the same, like let's do the wrong things for the right reasons, right? Like the ends justify the means. Sure, some people got to die, but it's for the greater good. And you can see the seeds of that being planted here. And Qui-Gon actually holding him back from that.
Which to me is interesting as the show progresses. If Qui-Gon didn't die, would Dooku have like fully gone down that path? And like, so the death of Qui-Gon.
The same thought.
Yeah. Oh, good. Because I think the show really wants us to think that, right? At different points, and like the death of Qui-Gon Jinn is so pivotal for more than just Obi-Wan Kenobi or his death, but it's like Duel of the Fates, right? That's the whole point of that song, as Dave Filoni talks about it. It is like, it is good versus evil and the fate of Anakin Skywalker. That's what's at stake in that fight. But it's also the fate of Count Dooku, as like we have discovered, and Yaddle. So,
Yaddle.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to say about the second one, the second episode?
Question for you. So they didn't say Qui-Gon's name till the end of the episode.
Yep.
And it felt to me like it was supposed to be a surprise reveal. Like, oh, this has been Qui-Gon the whole time. You knew it was Qui-Gon the whole episode, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Because they say in episode 2 that Qui-Gon was Dooku's apprentice. So that's not, so it's not like, if you just know that, that's not a surprise.
And he looked like Liam Neeson.
Oh yeah, he looks like
He looked like a young Liam. He was like a facial scan of a young Liam Neeson.
Yep.
So they said it at the end, and I was like, "Oh, you're saying that like it's a big reveal, but was I not supposed to know that, or
I mean,
I definitely knew that."
All right, so I'll put this in context. When you were, let me see, going back when you were 10. Right?
Yeah.
No, 8, 9, 10. When Darth Sidious showed up on the screen, how long did it take you to figure out? Yeah.
I was 10 when when Phantom Menace came out.
Right. So you were
sure.
Yeah. So by the time Revenge of the Sith comes out, and you're like, you're the Sith Lord, and you're like, why didn't I know that? Oh my God. Like
I figured it out before.
I know, but you know what I mean? Like, younger audience,
Yeah.
So
yeah, totally,
in some ways, like you said, like, yes, it's like kind of built for the older crowd, but they're like if I watched that with my wife, she wouldn't know that she's seen the movies, but she would not know that was.
You're right. That reveal was for less familiar fans,
correct,
or for the kids, and
yeah. Fair. Yeah, that's right. That's where I kind of landed on it.
Episode 3, the only episode not written by Dave Filoni.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. It's a very good episode. I like the pairing of Mace Windu and Dooku, mostly because they're Mace Windu is in his pre-Jedi Council phase, so he's I want to say carefree, but like he does not have the weight of the world on his shoulders the way that Dooku already feels like he does. In the kind of person that he is, and I enjoyed their interaction, and just kind of Mace never comes off great. Like, it just as a character, there's a lot of poor decisions from the Jedi rest on Mace Windu's shoulders, and like you can see that happening in this episode, right? But it also gives context to when Mace in episode 2 is like, Count Dooku's not possible of assassinating it. It's not possible for him to assassinate anyone that's not his character. And it's like this episode directly addresses his point of view on that matter. Like, it's just not possible. Like, that's not who he is. And that just adds layers to Mace's blindness for everything that's going on around him. Like, for a guy that's so in tune with the Force, he is just missing a lot.
He's blind to the dark side. Like, he really has a blind spot when it comes to the Sith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hilarious considering that his lightsaber's purple is right. It's supposed to be the back in the day, the expanded universe. Back in the day, it was supposed to be the it was red, but now it's not. Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's so funny. Yeah, I really liked this episode. What did you think?
I liked it a lot. I liked honestly, I think the thing that caught my attention the most was that in the end it's Windu who gets the spot on the council, and Dooku doesn't, which you would almost expect to us, to the viewing audience, it's like, oh, that's another nail in Dooku's coffin, right? Like another step on his path to the dark side is getting passed over for this, promotion, so to speak. But Windu doesn't see it that way, and he's still, 20 years later, is still like, no, that's not his character.
Right. Yeah, and to me, it lined up with Master and Apprentice, because like, if Qui-Gon, like Obi-Wan tells Qui-Gon, if you would just agree with the council, you would be on the council. And Qui-Gon's like, nah, I'm not interested in that, because
I'm good
because you can see what the council is and why they're wrong. And seeing Dooku live that too in this episode, where he's like, yeah, of course Mace is on it. Like, freaking used me, that son of a gun, or whatever. Right. Like, he's a political animal, and he doesn't think that he is, which makes him more dangerous or at least more naive to his own reality.
Sure. And it adds to Dooku's disillusionment with the Jedi.
Yes. Very much.
As an institution.
Yep. Yeah, and I liked that very much. And then we get episode 4, The Sith Lord, which is, truthfully, I think some of the best Star Wars, bar none. Like, it was just
great.
Unbelievably good. Like, unbelievably good. To me, like, the actual fall of Dooku, right? The tragic decline of this character that we learn is the one that deleted Camino from the records, because it does not exist. And we learned that. We got Liam Neeson back as Qui-Gon for a little bit, and kind of their last their last interaction was in Choices, right? Or was it in their last interaction's in Choices, and he's already dead by the Sith Lord, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because like they're at the tree, right? The only living thing in Coruscant is at the Jedi Temple, that tree. Yes. Which I think is just lovely symbolism. Exactly. It's excellent.
Yeah.
And, it's really good. And then, Yaddle's there to play by Bryce Dallas Howard, whom I love. She did a great job.
Yes, same.
Yeah.
Yaddle is there to inform us that Yoda has just been f***ing with us all this time.
No, he absolutely has. You're right. Like, or maybe it's just in my mind, it's something the males of the species do, but the females don't. That would be my understanding.
Like how peacocks, the male peacocks, are the ones with the big feathers, the big plumage.
Exactly. Exactly. I think it was somebody. I think Andrew. Andrew was the one that said. I'm pretty sure Yoda just has a speech impediment. That's like that's what we've all learned from this.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, his universal translator is on the fritz.
That's it. Yeah. Do you know why the trilogies came out 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3?
Because George wanted it to feel like you were in the middle of the story already.
Yes, well, maybe, but actually, because Yoda created the order, he did.
That was good. I should have seen that as a joke for what it was, and I gave you a real answer.
You did.
And you were like, "Wait, no."
Very sincere.
Yeah, I was really sincere when I should have known it was a joke.
Yes, but no. Anyway, Bryce Dallas Howard, wonderful as Yaddle. Without a speech impediment.
Indeed. What I thought was most heart-wrenching about this episode, I think, is the obviously Dooku's decline, but like the way in which he declines, because it feels like a mouse in a trap, and a lot of it has to do with grief over Qui-Gon's death. Then he is not attending the funeral because he's already within the snare of the dark side, and that's part of the issue where he finds himself, because he's a bit disillusioned himself as to what he's doing with Sidious. So like he like never really becomes, I mean, he's not really Sith yet, right? He's still just he's still a Jedi Knight, a Jedi Master. But what I thought was interesting about his fall here is that like it's basically the way Anakin fell at this. It's the same thing. Dooku, I mean, like Sidious or Palpatine repeats the same thing. He's like, you're basically gonna have to kill a Jedi Master, for you to like be on fully within my grasp. And I found that quite interesting. Like, there's a pattern to the way that he does this. So is that what he does to Maul too? Are we aware of that or not aware of that? Like, is it actually like, is this something that he does with Dooku and goes, aha, methinks I have a plan?
I feel like this is his move. Like, this is how he manipulates people. Very often, people who are good at manipulating others have a go-to move or set of moves that they employ. Like they have their particular method. You know, some people are really good at finding your insecurities and then exploiting that insecurity. You know, like, oh, okay, you really want like you never got your parents' approval or whatever, so I'm gonna like withhold my approval, and you're gonna do what I tell you because you think you're gonna get my approval. Whatever it is, they have their go-to move, and I feel like this is Palpatine's. Like this is Palpatine's abusive, toxic trait is that he knows how to. It is like it's this is what he does. This is his method, and it's like proven. Yep.
Yeah, and I found it was great to have Ian McDiarmid back, and because there's no replacing the original in this case. You know, like each actor that has played him over the years in animation, including Tim Curry, who was good and everything, but there's something just so wonderful about Ian McDiarmid's original performance.
I was very surprised that he did it, and pleasantly surprised. Ian Abercrombie played him on the Clone Wars and did a great job.
He did do a great job. Yeah. And then Tim Curry did when Ian Abercrombie passed away.
And Tim Curry.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like it because I feel like Ian McDiarmid is just game. He's just like, yeah, man, like let's do it. Yeah. I'm just a nice person, and I'm super happy to like be in this thing, and I love that. So anyway, what I completely lost my train of thought. So what I found compelling about the way this episode is structured, I looked it up. Qui-Gon is in this episode. It wasn't the previous one. I think the timeline is larger in episode 4.
Okay,
but
this stuff does happen after Qui-Gon's
death. It does.
I guess he's alive at the beginning of it. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. When he's deleting the planet, he's alive, and then when he's deleting Camino, he's alive, and then he learns of Qui-Gon's death. Like it's like he says goodbye, basically, and then it's Qui-Gon's death.
That's right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm tracking now.
But what I found compelling about the way that it was written is that like I know that Dooku is going to fall. Like there's no question about it. I know where he's going. That's how I was introduced to him as character, and I still like am worried that if he's going to or not, or that he's going to like walk down this path. And I think in writing, that's very difficult to like get the audience to worry that a character is going to do the very thing you absolutely know they're going to do because you already know the ending.
You're like rooting for him not to do it, even though you know he's about to do it, right?
Yep.
Like it's so well done. It's so well executed that like even though you know where it's going, you're like, don't do it.
Yeah, like truly, and I found, I think I found Sidious and some of his like peak scariness in this episode, like in the way that I don't know, he's almost like an amorphous being in some way. Like the way he's shot and the way his lines are delivered, he feels like an enveloping cloak around Dooku that he will not escape. And you know it, but you're still rooting against it. And I think that's really, really hard to accomplish. And truthfully, pretty awesome lightsaber battle. Like it was a good one.
Oh yeah. Very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah. And like you know that Dooku is going to finish off Yaddle, and like deep down it's got to happen.
Yeah, and I still was like, ooh, like like
exactly,
like no, don't do it. Ooh, that's how it went. Ooh, gosh, that was much. And it was what I found interesting. Like halfway through the battle, I was like, wow, Yaddle isn't in 2 or 3. And then, like that's what blew me away. That I was just like, right, where is Yaddle? Like it was this thing in episode 1, and then all of a sudden she's just not around. And then like that's just well designed. I just like when Star Wars does things like that. Like, okay, who's different? Who's missing? Who's around? So what happened to that character? Well, let's tell that story. And yeah, it was great.
I love Filoni and crew, their ability to tell stories around that. To build stories around that so that it all feels like it was woven from one piece of cloth, even though it was done 20 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
Their ability to sort of find the cracks and things and fill them in a way that makes it all feel like one piece.
Yep. And yeah, but not One Piece the anime, right? You just talk about One Piece like a puzzle.
Correct.
Gotcha. Let's talk about practice makes perfect. So we go back. So we start with Ahsoka, which I think is funny that we're kind of watching this in chronological order. Like, it's funny to split the characters up, but you still watch it in order. So you go Ahsoka, Dooku, Ahsoka. So you get practice makes perfect, which is just Anakin basically like hounding Ahsoka, yeah, these droids won't teach you anything. Let's actually get some real thing in there. We get child Kanan in there for a hot second at the beginning, which is cool. And to me, this felt like a story that they didn't have time to tell in Clone Wars, and so it was because or just by like the narrative restrictions of the way that they told Clone Wars, this is not something they could do there. But because they had to get into the war already and stuff, I really enjoyed this episode, especially since it takes us all the way to the end of the Clone Wars, right? It gives it, which I found very powerful. Really, if you didn't know anything about Ahsoka, this tells you a lot about Ahsoka, and I thought that was awesome.
I do wish I wish we had seen this before Clone Wars Season 7.
Yes.
I wish this was part of Season 7 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that this had been part of the story. But in either way, it is great to have it now and fill in that picture. Again, fill in the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
And see the full picture of this is how she survived Order 66, right? Because she did this drill time after time after time after time. This is how she is able to get past the group of clones who are surrounding her,
mm-hmm.
right? Is because she's literally trained for that exact scenario extensively.
Time after time, but time after time, time after time.
If you're lost and you are a Jedi Knight.
Yeah.
Time
after time. Yeah. It was great to even it's so dumb, but to see the various lengths of Anakin's hair just always amused me. Because they have to he went from short hair to shoulder length hair through the course of this war. So to see it's always funny to me to see this in between arc, and then his not his Clone Wars armor outfit, but the his regular Jedi outfit, and which truthfully I like the Clone Wars armor outfit better. There, I said it. I think it's cooler.
I do like it. I like it.
I think it's cool because he's got the Darth Vader shoulder chest piece on already. I just love that it's just adopted for his own purposes as Darth Vader. But anyway, this was good. And then we end with the last one, which is Resolve, which is kind of the Spark Notes version of the Ahsoka novel. And and that's why this one I found was okay, because it's a story I'd seen. I read the book, and obviously the book has more time, and the book is okay. It's not it's not one of the greatest Star Wars books out there, but I found it to be this one I didn't think sold me on I know what's going to happen the way the Dooku one did. This is also I know Ahsoka's going to pick up her lightsabers again, and she's going to do this thing, and so her I'm just a regular person in the galaxy business didn't really work for me the same way, because the type of person she is, she's her giving up part of her life just is yeah, I know you do, but
way harder to buy.
Yeah,
just because you know how persistent a character she is.
Exactly.
It is harder to buy. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I guess in some ways, like, that's the tragedy in that, like, even such a persistent character, like herself, like Yoda, Obi-Wan, whatever, like they all, even Luke, to an extent, like they, like they've been broken by the dark side, right? Like it got to them.
Sure.
And so, but I just I was just kind of like waiting for this episode to finish because I knew where it was gonna go. But the fight was very cool. Like
the fight was very cool.
Fight was very cool.
And the fact that she touches base with Bail again because she's trying to help someone else.
Yes.
Right? Like she didn't call him for her own rescue or whatever. She did it to help someone else who was in need, which is very fitting with her character.
I agree.
That she would be doing it. And she's joining the fight again. But really what triggers her to call him and take him up on his offer all those years later is, here are these people in need that I think you can help.
Yeah. And what I actually really enjoy, we talked about like Sidious has this like modus operandi, like this is what I'm going to do. And like Bail has that too, but it's always like Jedi who doesn't want to be a Jedi anymore. I have a job for you. And I want to get you to come out of your exile. Call me. Yeah, right. Exactly. I'm here. This is the mission. I'm going to record the whole thing for anybody to intercept it. Whatever. Yeah. But I like that he's like anti-Sidious that way, where he's like, I'm just like, this is like, you break them, but I build them back up again. And that's very cool to me.
Wow.
That nice juxtaposition.
That's so true.
Yeah. Because he does it twice, right? And so that we know of.
That we know of, right?
Yeah, he could definitely do it more, and so I like that. I find that very fun, and I just found it really, truthfully wrenching to start at Padme's funeral. And to have Ahsoka be there.
Gonna say that.
I was like, oh my God, that was like way more devastating than I expected it to be. That was like, that really like her. I was like, I think I literally said out loud to myself, I'm like, oh my God, she was there. Like why wouldn't I expect that to happen or whatever else? But it's just so simple, but so lovely and like really gut punching all at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it so apparently when the Ahsoka novel was written, it was based off of Filoni's like notes and thoughts and like story ideas for the season 7 that he thought would never happen.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that is why it's so similar. I think then he took some liberties with this, and it's not exactly, doesn't maybe necessarily exactly match up with the events of the novel, but it's like close enough because it's based off of his ideas. Maybe he developed them a little more since then, but yeah, so that is the similarities between the novel and this are because even the novel was based off of his input.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. So like, why wouldn't you go back to your own ideas?
Exactly.
And truthfully, it just validates the novel because it's just a shorter version of what existed. So it's not expanded universe. This like, it doesn't contradict the novel, or anything like that. So, which is good, which is good all around. It just, to me, was like, I think it was the weakest episode of the bunch. And so like, it was like a kind of like I think it was really, because they went in chronological order, it's really hard to top the 4th episode. And
I almost wish they had not done chronological order and put this somewhere in the middle.
Just give me the 3. Give me the
4.
3 Ahsoka stories, and then give me the 3 Dooku stories. That I think would have been
honestly, that would work.
Yeah,
yes, that would work.
That would have worked for me because the first 2 Ahsoka ones are really strong. And definitely would have gotten me to watch the 3rd one, which would have been like, okay, that's fine, but the next one's Dooku, so I'll definitely watch that one. Like, they're so short. I can give you 15 minutes. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in a format like this, I wouldn't even mind jumping around the timeline, right?
Nope.
Like, I wouldn't care. Like, oh, well, the Ahsoka one happens after these Dooku ones. Like, it doesn't matter because like the format of the show lends itself to that. It's the Star Wars Twilight Zone. Like,
yeah.
I get it. We're jumping around, different stories, different people, different times.
True, but I think going back to one of your original points is that like it's a little bit of for the grown-up Clone Wars audience, but that's not the only audience, right? And so like,
that's true.
We'll get.
But
I know the
Clone
Star Wars
jumped
time.
around.
True.
But even Clone Wars jumped around chronologically. Like, if you want to watch Clone Wars chronologically, you have to watch it in a really weird really weird order, because they tell like different arcs. So like, well, actually, this is earlier in the war, and this is later in the war.
It's true, but at the same time, though, like none of the a lot of that isn't super important in the grand scheme because you're still in the war. And this is way before, and way after, but
way after.
A time after certainly. So, I don't know. I just finished, and I when I finished, I was like, I just freaking love Star Wars so much. Like that was kind of like that was just kind of like my big takeaway where I was like, man, I love Star Wars, and I don't get mad at it. I don't get mad at Star Wars. I think the way that I can get mad at other things, like because there's the quality Star Wars content outnumbers the bad Star Wars content, because I have to really think not hard, but like I know what my least favorite Star Wars is, and even my least favorite Star Wars is still watchable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's and that's what I like so much about it. And so I hope they do another set of these, and it doesn't have to be Dooku or Ahsoka. Like, it can be, give me another character. That's totally fine.
I would almost prefer that it's another character. Like, leave me wanting more with these guys, right? Like, give me like focus on one or two other characters for the next set of them, and leave me wanting more for them. Maybe the next one is like a couple of Chewbacca episodes and a couple of.
True. Well, it's Tales of the Jedi. To be fair, it is Tales of the Jedi.
You're right.
We talked about I had said Jabba and Boba Fett and Lando, and none of them are Jedi.
Yeah.
But
that's true. That's true.
It is. But you know what I would like? Give me a High Republic arc, or give me an Old Republic arc, or like Tales of the Jedi, 1,000 generations. That's.
More I think about it, the more I'm like, I would rather it be characters that I know, that I have familiarity with, so I have a connection to.
I wouldn't mind half and half, or if there was 4 episodes about a character, like if you gave me 4 Qui-Gon episodes and 2 High Republic episodes, I wouldn't mind that as much.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Overall, what I really like about this series is it felt very Star Wars. It felt very Clone Wars. I felt like I was not so much like I was reading an EU novel, but more like I was reading a Marvel comic, like a Star Wars comic, that takes place in the universe.
I know what you mean.
For whatever reason, for me, the comics feel more grounded in the actual universe than some of the novels take liberties in ways that I don't feel as organic to Star Wars to me. But this show does. This show feels like it's. I mean, Filoni sat at the at the lap of George and learned how to tell Star Wars stories, and I feel like that is throughout Clone Wars and here that really shows.
Yeah, what I truly think is needed for the continuation of Star Wars 2 is for somebody to sit at the feet of Filoni, too, because that skill needs to be passed on to tell authentic Star Wars stories. And not that you have to do that. Like, I think Andor, which is going on right now, is a great example of not sitting at the feet of George, and still telling really compelling Star Wars content that is definitely Star Wars, but feels fresh. Whereas this feels more like a warm blanket that I'm happy to return to.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's so right. It is so cozy and familiar. I think the thing that Tony Gilroy has going, even though he's not a Star Wars expert, showrunner of Andor, but he definitely he leaves room for like the story group or whomever he's working with to plug in Star Wars elements to keep it grounded in the universe, right? Like even just like I feel like there must be slots in the script where he's like, I don't know, mention 2 or 3 planets here, and someone goes in and they're like Camino, like
sure, yeah, absolutely, yeah,
and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's definitely that's helpful to be Star Wars, but in tone and acting style, actually, it's really not Star Wars. Like,
agreed.
I saw an interview with him, and he spoke about like he said when actors, he's like purposely chose actors that didn't act like they were in Star Wars, because once they like learned that they were in Star Wars, sometimes it would get in their head and they would start like doing the thing that makes Star Wars acting faster, more intense. And he's like, no,
right,
no, that's not what I want. He's like I want, if you were real people in a real world, on a real planet, in a real whatever, this is how you would speak. And that's just not Star Wars,
so
right? And that's what I find so interesting about the show.
We'll talk about it more when we'll cover Andor when it finishes, but it's so interesting to me because that shouldn't work.
Yeah,
like
no,
on paper that shouldn't work, but he actually makes it work.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. But we'll talk about that when that finishes up. But any final thoughts on Tales of the Jedi?
I love the format. I love the way that they did it. I love so much about it. I wasn't that excited about it going into it because I didn't know much other than it's 6 animated shorts. I didn't know if it was more like Star Wars Visions was or something. But I really, really enjoyed it. It kind of blew me away how much I enjoyed it, and I hope for more.
Yep, I agree. I didn't expect it to hit me as hard as it did, emotionally, and that includes from episode 1 all the way to the last one to some extent. But I did know more about, like, I knew that Dooku was the focus. I knew Qui-Gon with Liam Neeson was going to be in it, and that was truly enough for me. Like, I was like, Dooku, I'm there. Like, and I'm glad I was. I'm glad he was, because what a ride. But Frank, where can everybody find us?
You can find us at beerwithgeeks.com or thoughtbubbleaudio.com if you want to check out us and some other shows that we and our friends work on. You can find us anywhere you find your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Amazon, all the big podcast directories. We're there. You can find us there. You can rate and review us there, subscribe or follow us there. And if you want to support us, you can head on over to patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio and help us out with a couple bucks here and there to help cover the costs of making these shows. That's what I got for you.
Well, that was very good, Frank. You're very good at wrapping this show up. Just so you're aware. That's why I always ask you to do it. Yeah.
I see.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Frank. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.